بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Tonight, inshallah, we continue with the Sirah course and the second part of the Sirah course. And we are in the second 3 years of his prophecy, alayhi salatu wasalam, and I've broken down the sessions. Hopefully by the second or third week of December, we'll be able to stop, give you some time to prepare. Exam will be sometime at the end of the month, December. And then, because the next semester will start quite quickly, right, in the second week of January, first week of January, because Ramadan is in the middle of next semester, which makes it short because I can't give any lessons throughout Ramadan at all outside of what's already happening. So I have to find a way to work around Ramadan. I may not give the third part of Sirah next semester. I may give it a little bit of a rest and then bring back part 3 in the summer after that, because this is the type of course where I actually need all 12, 13 weeks. So if I have a short semester, I may use it for something that can be fit in 10 sessions or so. So if you're interested in finishing up the Sirah course to the end with me, then we would say that maybe I may not do part 3 next semester, just as a disclaimer from now. So you're not all. I can see everyone's so upset already, from. All right, so we stopped off. We arrived at the Islam of both Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib and Umar ibn Khattab. They accepted Islam somewhere between year 3 and 6. Some scholars push it towards the end of that period, like in year 6. Some scholars put it earlier on in year 3. No one really knows. I think it's probably a bit earlier, because that's when Ibn Hisham has it in his. Even though I told you Hisham is not a sequential historian, right? He is an encyclopedic historian. He does not care for. He's not necessarily always looking for sequence. He's looking for encyclopedia, putting all of the information about one thing in one place. But still, he kind of put the Islam of Hamza and Umar a little bit early in the sequence of the work. That makes me think maybe it wasn't as late as we think it is. But regardless, when I tell the story, I usually put it at year number 6, just to be safe in terms of the story that I'm telling. And I put for you a few slides that talk about the Islam of Sayyidina Hamza, and within the source of Ibn Hisham, he talks about وكان حمزة ابن عبد المطلب راجعا من قنص له ومعه قوسه فأخبرته امرأة من بني زهرة بما صنع أبو جهل برسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Hamza was coming back from a hunting escapade, and he had with him whatever he had hunted, whatever he brought back with him. And he had with him his close, his bow, and he had the arrows, and he's coming back from a hunt. He was a very interesting character, Sayyidina Hamza, the bachelor of the year, basically, in Mecca, easily. The coolest man in Mecca, easily, by far. There's a Hamza, then a huge drop, and then whoever comes next. And he was a bachelor for a long time. And he was very, mashallah, very good looking, tall, very, very strong. And he was not into politics or religion or any of that stuff. He was just a man who had, he was noble. He was not a heavy drinker or someone who was with women or anything like that. But he's a guy who enjoyed his life, and he had a lot of friends and people looked up to him. He was a very charismatic character for sure. And the Prophet ﷺ was very close to him. He loved him very much. They were very close together. Some say that Hamza was a bit younger than the Prophet ﷺ. Some say that Hamza was a bit younger, some say a little bit older. We don't know for sure. And it's very normal, by the way. Back then, people would have children. They would start having children, like a lady would start having children by age maybe 10 or 15, and then she would keep on having children until she was 40. My grandmother had 13 pregnancies. My grandmother, not my great-grandmother, my grandmother. 13 pregnancies. 3 of them died as infants. She had 10 children. And I know, and my youngest aunt is younger than one of her nephews, who was the son of the eldest sister. So it's very, very common back then for you to find these types of dynamics. So Sayyidina Hamza was very close to the Prophet ﷺ, but he was not necessarily one of those people who cared about any of these things. He was not in politics, not into religion, not into any of this stuff. So he took a few years where the Prophet ﷺ is building and teaching, and he's kind of, he's doing his thing, quiet, not causing any trouble. And then he comes back, and he's hunting, and he's going to start his barbecue and spend the night with the shabab. And then a lady from Bani Zuhra tells him, shame on you. You act like you're some faris, you're some knight and strong, and you walk around acting like you're some tough guy, and you're going out to hunt your birds and your deer, and your nephew is being oppressed and mistreated. And she points out something Abu Jahl had done to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. فغضب حمزة وقال أيسب محمد وأنا على دينه. Someone is daring to curse or mistreat Muhammad, and I am على دينه, meaning I follow him. ثم مضى حتى دخل المسجد. Then he went and he entered the masjid. فلما رأى أبا جهل المسجد is in the Kaaba يعني فلما رأى أبا جهل قام إليه فضربه بالقوس فشجه. He saw Abu Jahl, he takes his bow and he hits him right across the face with the bow, opening like a scar in Abu Jahl's face with the bow. وقال أتسبه وأنا على دينه. You dare say something to Muhammad and I'm one of his followers. رد علي إن استطعت. Go ahead, hit me back, I dare you. Hit me back. Not a word. فقال رجل من بني مخزوم يا أبا عمارة والله ما كنت سبابة. He said, a man from Abu Jahl's tribe will say, Ya Aba Amara, which is what Hamza is called. Amara, we don't know if he actually had. It was very common for someone to be called Abu something with no something. Very, very common. My friends in Duma, part of Syria, they would be born and their fathers would immediately name them. So he was born, he said, Anta Abdullah Abu Usama. So he was called Abu Usama from he was 3 years old. Like it was already set in stone from the day he was born. A very common trait back then. فما كنت سبابا. You've never been known to be someone who insults others and stuff. He's trying to calm him down. فقال أبو جهل دعوا حمزة فإني سببت ابن أخيه سبا قبيحا. Abu Jahl would say, no, leave him. It's okay. I really did mistreat his nephew. Like he didn't dare actually respond back to Hamza. And he said, it's okay. I actually he was very rude to his nephew. فكان حمزة يقول أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله فأسلم حمزة يومئذ. So what they say is that once he said that, he found that he had there's another narration, I don't know if I added it here, I don't think I added it here, that exists in a different book. And where Hamza, after he does this, he walks out and he says, oh, I'm not really on his deen. Like I didn't follow him or anything. I just needed a way to. So he goes to the Prophet ﷺ and tells him, like, I need a way out. I did this, but I didn't. فقال اسمع مني. How about you listen to me first? Right? Let me talk to you first about this. So he talks to Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu anhu. فأسلم Hamza. And Hamza offered Islam. And of course, the rest is history. Hamza was one of the most charismatic and impactful characters within our to the point where his name is no longer a name; it's an adjective. You understand what that means for your name to turn into an adjective? Like when I just call you, if you want to describe someone as brave or strong, or you say Ada Hamza, you don't even have to call him that name. You just use it as like in Arabic now. It's used as a description, as a way to describe someone. That's how powerful the name is. That he was able to take his name and make it into something where if you use the name to describe someone, khalas, it's you know what I mean. You know who I'm, because it's only one of them. It's only one guy. There'll be a million Hamzas that live, but there's only one that you'll always remember, right? And subhanAllah, within the same period, another guy accepted Islam, did the same thing to his name. His name became, there's a million Umars who live, but there's one that we all know, that we all attribute or relate to or connect with. And that tells you something about what it means to be someone of impact and of importance. And of course, we'll talk about Hamza more. And we'll talk a little bit. Well, I'll go through his history a little bit more as you talk about him, the Battle of Uhud, inshallah, later on. But he accepted Islam at that point, and that was a big morale lift in the midst of all of this oppression, persecution. Kind of negativity that was surrounding the Muslims at the time. This was a big deal. Hamza accepted Islam. Hamza was definitely a character that they wanted on their team for sure. The second character, the Islam of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, and both Imam al-Tabari in his Tarikh al-Kabir and even Hisham in his Sirah, they go through this long story. I'm not going to read the story for you. I'll tell it to you quickly. I left it for you to read. You can go ahead and you read it on your own time. There's a number of different narrations. I didn't add them all here. I just kind of put the shortest one that I can fit in the slide. But the story is that Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he tells the story, he actually goes into a lot of detail. So indeed, you can find this in the Tabaqat ibn Sa'd, and you'll find this also in the Sirah Alam Nubala Imam al-Dhahabi, where he talks in detail of his experience of accepting Islam. And he starts by saying that no one was more against Islam than I was. Like I was the biggest antagonist. I did not like anything about it. And he would actually walk behind the Prophet ﷺ and antagonize people who tried to listen to him. He would follow them around. He would follow the Prophet ﷺ around. Every time the Prophet ﷺ came to speak to someone, Umar would look at the guy and say, keep on moving. So the guy would keep on moving, because Umar was a door of a man. He was, no one was, Hamza and Umar, subhanAllah, they accepted Islam at the same time, and they're very similar characteristics. They're very similar in terms of their character, their attitude, their size, their impact. Like subhanAllah, very similar with different ways of accepting Islam. I think the beauty of it is how different the way they accepted Islam was. Hamza was a moment of emotion, a moment of like, I will not allow someone to be oppressed, and that's got him to himself. Umar, no, Umar took his time. Umar started out by saying, I don't like any of this. It's ruining the culture. It's ruining the unity. It's taking away the status quo. It's causing fathers and sons not to get along anymore. I don't like this. So he'd go after the Prophet, and the Prophet ﷺ would look back and say, Ya Umar, you have nothing else to do? Day or night, like you've quit your job, you're just going to walk behind me all day. Go find something to do. But the Prophet ﷺ at the same time would often make a dua, Ya Allahumma a'izz al-Islam bi ahad al-umarayn. Allah, grant Islam strength is one of the two Umars. There's some question about the authenticity of this dua, but it's there in the books and it's quoted. And he was referring to Umar ibn Khattab or Amr ibn Hisham, who was Abu Jahl. And so he's hoping that one of these impactful people accepted Islam. And of course, the da'wah went for Sayyidina Umar. And he did this for a while. And then he started talking about what changed him. And the first thing that happened is that one day he had like a servant, a young girl, that as all these other girls, we talked about the stories last week, Zinnira and Ubais and Shuraik and all these young women who were oppressed. He had a similar story, and he would persecute her and leave her outside and won't let her eat. He would be very harsh. فكنت أظلمها فلا يزيدها ظلمي إلا تحديا. And the more I oppress her, the more she stands up to me and she holds on to her deen. فأقول في نفسي ماذا وجدت هذه. So I tell myself, what is it that she's found that she's willing to put up with this? Like he, in his mind, is like, no one wants to be left outside in the middle of, or deprived from food or mistreated. She's young. Why would she? It should be in his mind. It should be easy to manipulate her and to control her, to get her out of whatever she's doing. But she kept on, she challenged him. He's a huge man, and he's like, what is it that she found that makes her challenge me this way? Like he started to wonder. فكان أول ما دخل الإسلام في قلبي. It was the first moment that I started to think about it seriously, is when this young woman and this young girl refused to listen and refused to be coerced out of her faith. And the second one is one day he went after Fajr or early in the day, he wanted to get something to drink, forgive me, a drink, not a halal drink, but it was closed still. He had gone too early, so he went and he said, "Atuf bil Kaaba, do some tawaf." The Arabs used to respect and love the Kaaba, so he wanted to do tawaf. So he's going to do tawaf around the Kaaba, and the Prophet ﷺ was praying Fajr right there. And he's going around and he's listening to the Prophet ﷺ, whether he likes it or not, reciting the Quran. And the Prophet ﷺ, the narration tells us that he's reciting Al-Haqqah, Mal-Haqqah. It's a beautiful surah. Ma adraka Mal-Haqqah, absolutely breathtaking. You should read it and put yourself in the Umar. So he's listening to all these words being وَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِشِمَالِهِ فَيَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أُوتَ كِتَابِيَهْ وَلَمْ أَدْرِ مَا حِسَابِيَهْ يَا لَيْتَهَا كَانَتِ الْقَاضِيَةَ مَا أَغْنَى عَنِّي مَالِيَهْ هَلَكَ عَنِّي سُلْطَانِيَهْ خُذُوهُ فَغُلُّوهُ ثُمَّ الْجَحِيمَ صَلُّوهُ ثم في سلسلة ذرعها 70 ذراعا فاسلكوه إنه كان لا يؤمن بالله العظيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فليس له اليوم هاهنا حميم ولا طعام إلا من غسلين لا يأكله إلا الخاطئون فلا أقسم بما تبصرون وما لا تبصرون. So in his mind, إنه لقول رسول كريم, and then in Umar's mind he's like, no, this is not the words of a Rasul Kareem. This is amazing, he must be a poet. He must be a poet. And then the Prophet ﷺ is continuing, وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ قَلِيلًا مَا تُؤْمِنُونَ. And it's not the words of a poet, but you don't want to believe. So in his mind, he's like, well, he must be a sorcerer. وَلَا بِقَوْلِ كَاهٍ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Nor is he a sorcerer, but you don't want to reflect. فَقُلْتُ فِي نَفْسِي, then what is it? تَنزِيلٌ مِّن رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. It is descended by the Lord of the worlds. فَيَقُولُ فَخِفْتُ. And I got scared and I walked away and I didn't finish my tawaf. It's like, what is he? He got into my head and he left. And the third time, but because he's struggling with it, because he's like, he doesn't want to accept, but he's being logically brought towards this. And then he finally decides, you know what? I have to fix this problem. The only way to fix this problem is to get rid of Muhammad for once and for all. I have to kill him. So he left his house. فَخَرَجَ عُمَرُ مُتَقَلِّدًا سَيْفَهُ يُرِيدُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم. He took his sword. He's going after the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. So a man will see him. And one narration is that Ibn Mas'ud, he would see him going towards the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. Ask him, إلى أين يا عمر؟ فقال أريد محمدا لأقتله. فقال والله لقد غرتك نفسك أتظن بني عبد مناف تاركوك تمشي على الأرض وقد قتلت محمدا. He said, you're being hasty, Umar. You think his family are going to leave you if you touch him? بل اذهب إلى أختك وأخيك فقد أسلم. Go, why go kill Muhammad? Go see your sister and her husband. You're gonna go and be all macho against Muhammad. Go see your sister and her brother, your brother-in-law. They've been Muslim for years. So he lost his mind. Got very upset, and he went to, and of course I explained to you that one of the early Muslims historically is Fatima bint al-Khattab radiallahu anha, one of the great women of Islam, the wife of Sa'id ibn Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl radiallahu anhuma. So he went to his house. In the house is Khabbab ibn Arat, one of the early Sahaba, reciting the Quran with them. All three of them are sitting in the house, and they're reciting the Quran. He can hear from outside tamtama. He can hear sounds that sounded similar to what he heard the Prophet ﷺ doing around the Kaaba. So he can hear it from the inside. So he knocks on the door. They won't open the door for him. Knocks on the door again. Don't open the door for him. Khabbab leaves from the other door because he doesn't want to be killed by Umar. And Sa'id, of course, his brother-in-law, so he stays there. Umar knocks in the door, hits Sa'id, knocks him unconscious, and tells Fatima, give me what you've got. And Fatima's like, no, I'm not giving it to you. Give it to me. I'm not going to give it to you. Give it to me. I'm not going to give it to you. You're najis. You're not this. You have to go make wudu. He gets upset. He pulls it from her. She falls. She hits herself. She bleeds from her lip. He calms down. He loved his sister. He was not violent against his sister, and he felt he regretted that he was being aggressive. So he took it from her. She took it from him. فقالت اذهب فاغتسل. Go wash up and then come. This only is taken. You have to be tahir to read these words. So he did, and then he gave it to. It was given to him. And the Sirah ibn Hisham is that he recited the beginnings of Surah Taha. طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى إلا تذكرة لمن يخشى تنزيلا ممن خلق الأرض والسماوات العلى الرحمن على العرش استوى له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وما بينهما وما تحت الثرى وإن تجهر بالقول فإنه يعلم السر وأخفى الله لا إله إلا هو له الأسماء الحسنى. So he said those verses. فقال ما أحسن هذا الكلام وما أكرمه. How beautiful these words are. How noble these words are. And he said, Dulluni ala Muhammad, tell me where he is again. So at this point, Fatima told him where, because you could see that something had changed in his face, something's changed in his voice. But he went over, of course, he's going over there, and they're getting very, the people around Dar al-Arqam are looking, and they're like, this is not good news. Umar al-Khattab somehow is coming over here, he's coming in, and Hamza's sitting in the room, and they're like, Umar al-Khattab is coming. فقال دعوه فإن أتى لخير كان وإلا قتلته بسيفه. He's welcome to come in. If he wants khair, we'll give it to him. If he wants shar, I'll kill him with his own sword. No, don't worry about it. So Hamza sitting there, like, just let him in. So Umar al-Khattab would knock on the door. They open the door. The Prophet ﷺ would open the door and take him. يقول فلم فجاء فلما أخذ بمجامع ثوبه. So he took from this part of his thawb. يقول سيدنا عمر tells us the story. قال فهزني حتى نزلت على ركبتي. Meaning the Prophet ﷺ's grip. He shook me and I fell to my knee. I couldn't stand. He shook me until I fell to my knees. فقال أما آن لك يا ابن الخطاب أن تسلم؟ أما آن لعقلك أن يدرك الإسلام؟ Oh, Ibn al-Khattab, is it not time yet for you? Has the time not come for you to accept Islam? Has the time not come for your brain to understand what I am teaching? يقول بلى آن يا رسول الله. So yes, the time has come. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأنك عبده ورسوله. In the narration, Ibn Hisham goes on. I just gave you the small, the short version here. فقام الصحابة يكبرون. الله أكبر, الله أكبر. It was seen as one of the most. They see that day as one of the happiest days in Mecca for them. Islam سيدنا عمر. يقول ابن مسعود والله ما كنا نجرؤ أن نجهر بالقرآن في مكة حتى أسلم عمر. We didn't have the guts to talk about the Quran or shed the Quran openly in Mecca until Umar became Muslim. Once Umar became Muslim, we felt like we were a bit supported. We have someone, we have a big guy who can defend us. And of course, the story goes on, and Sayyidina Umar, after this occurs, he says, Ya Rasulullah, ma baluna natakhafa. Why are we here? Why are you guys all here hiding? Why don't we go out? So the Prophet ﷺ, he rode this wave of optimism that the Sahaba were feeling, just to give them something to. So they all quietly got out of Dar al-Arqam, and they would gather in an alley in front of the Kaaba in two lines, and they would enter the Sahn al-Kaaba with takbir and tahmid and tahleel. لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد, entering on both the Prophet ﷺ in the middle, and then on the beginning of the first the head of the first line is Hamza, and then on the second line is Umar, and they would enter and no one would say a word. People would watch and say, well, leave them, it's okay, we've been oppressing them pretty hard, roughly lately, let them express themselves. And after they do this, سيدنا عمر الخطاب يعني it was a big deal. The first time the Sahaba were able to يعني يجهروا بالتكبير والتحميد within Mecca. He wasn't happy. فيقول فما شفت نفسي. I didn't feel good enough. I was happy with this. But so he started to go to the homes of all of the leaders that he worked with. He was a diplomat. And he worked with all these people in Dar al-Nadwa. He was very close to them. So he goes and he knocks on the door of Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl opens the door. أما علمت Abu Jahl opens the door. أهلا وسهلا. Of course, Umar, how are you? He doesn't know. أما علمت, what you know? قال ما؟ قال أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله. فقال بئس ما يعني بئس أفسدت علي يومي. You've ruined my day. And he closes the door and locks the door. Doesn't want to get in trouble with Abu Jahl. He's not happy with that. So he goes, he knocks on the door of Abu Sufyan. Same thing. Knocks on the door of Uqba. Same thing. He's not getting anything. So he goes out and he stands in the middle of the Kaaba and he begins يعني calling to Islam. قال حتى اجتمع علي الناس, until people came to me فأخذوا يضربونني فأخذت أضربهم ويضربونني حتى استوت الشمس حتى زالت الشمس. This after يعني we started around like 9 o'clock and they started hitting me and I started hitting them and we beat each other until it was like ظهر. فكنت كلما تعبت أخذت برأس واحد منهم فجعلت أصبعي في عينيه فقلت ابتعدوا أقول وإلا فقعت عيني. Every time I got tired I would just pick one up, put him under my and put my fingers in his eyes like get away or I'll pop both his eyes. So they would step away. He would be begging everyone and he would lie down and just rest for a bit and then let him go and they do the same thing. He didn't know yet one of the ground rules of Mecca, which I'll explain to you inshallah yani next week. One of the ground rules of Mecca is that you don't bear arms. The second ground rule is that you don't inflict violence. Umar al-Khattab didn't know yet. He just accepted Islam. So this is like under the radar. He's not accountable for it. He never did it again. We know that he never did this again. And of course, Umar al-Khattab was different because he was from the midst of this whole gathering. He wasn't a foreigner coming into Mecca or a da'if. No, Umar al-Khattab was a leader in his qawm. So when he is doing this with his peers, this is something between him and his peers. It's not the followers of Muhammad ﷺ are inflicting violence, or the followers of Muhammad are causing havoc or causing chaos. No, this is one of the leaders pushing back against his peers. So it was a different dynamic altogether. And obviously would continue and become subhanAllah. I always tell this story, and it's a beautiful story to tell, and I told it quickly. I'm sorry that we won't finish this course if I don't go through things quickly. Is that he came in a bit late, but he still got ahead. Just remember that. He didn't start. He wasn't day one. It wasn't day one. There's a lot of people who came before him. Yet by the time it was over, Anas would say, فكنت أقول فلا أعرف في عمري, I don't know my life, إلا جاء وأبو بكر وعمر وذهب وأبو بكر وعمر. All I know in my life is the Prophet ﷺ is coming and Abu Bakr and Umar are with him. And the Prophet ﷺ is leaving and Abu Bakr and Umar are leaving with him. Like they're always they're together. وإني ما عملت بعملهما. Now I'll leave that. I can't tell you that one. Anyways, the beauty of it is that he started a bit late, yet he was able to succeed, exceed everyone that was with him. Why? Because it was not about just it's not just about seniority. It's also about passion and commitment and grit, and which is Sayyidina al-Khattab, and he came and brought and he made an impact on the people that he was with. Some foundational surahs that were revealed during this period. Surah Al-Masad that talked about Abu Lahab after he spoke back to the Prophet ﷺ during his Surah Al-Asr, Surah Al-Takathur, Al-Kawthar, Al-An'am, Abasa. I put a small, a very short 2 or 3 word, like a line summary of what the surahs are about. If you care to know more, like if you want, like I want to know what these surahs were teaching, like because this is what they're listening to in Dar al-Arqam, I'll go to my surah summaries or go to my tafsir and listen to them so that you know what Abasa was and you know what An'am was. And Abasa, obviously, there's a story connected to it that I'm not sharing with you here, but you can go and listen to the surah and know what the story is as well. Obviously, telling you all of the stories of the seerah is not a course. That's something that I have to quit my job and divorce my wife, and you have to do the same and come here and we sit here for maybe 10 years in a row. We go through everything in depth and then we can walk out listening to all the. It's impossible. So there's a lot of picking and choosing from my side to try and paint a picture that has all the basics that you need, and then you have access to the resources, right? You have access to the resources and you can go read in depth if you want to read every single thing. That's what I hope that I'm going to invoke in you, like some degree of interest in reading in depth all the stories that we have, so that you can connect yourself to these characters and fall in love with them, like as you should, because it'll save your life. Like if you want your life to be saved, as in you never want to fall off the path or get in trouble or lose sense of yourself or your identity, then you have to fall in love with these characters. There has to be a story that you absolutely adore these characters, which is why I tell people, when you're a kid, kids, I think, who read novels when they're young, they are more likely to, because if you read a set of novels like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or whatever, these are my, I don't know, I don't know. There's probably something newer now people are reading. But if you read, you learn to fall in love with characters, right? And the Sirah, same thing. It's all these names. You fall in love with these names. You fall in love with Khadija and Umar and Hamza and yani Sa'id and Sa'd and yani Zayd and Ali, and you fall in love with them, and you find that there's so much that's relatable to me in their lives that I can find in mine, and that's really the point of this. So even studying these surahs, knowing that they heard them early on, and these surahs affected them early on. So go and study them yourself so that you can get connected to them as well. And I'm just putting them here for you in case you're interested. What was revealed during that time? These are examples of surahs that were revealed during that period. And I have a lot of summaries for them online. You're welcome to go and listen to them in Surah Sad, Surah Hud, Yusuf, Al-Ma'un, Al-Qadr. All of them are very early surahs within those years. So if you go back to that to this kind of important slide. So what happens in the second 3 years of prophecy? So 3 to 6. Abu Talib declares full protection. Quraysh doesn't like that. Big deal. Second thing is Hamza and Umar accept Islam, and that's like a big deal as well. It's a morale lift for the Sahaba. Number 4, they start something called the negotiation period. We already talked about the persecution, and I went through some degree of persecution is ongoing all throughout the Mecca period, and then in the Medina period it turns into wars. That's all, but it's the same thing. The persecution never stops, right? So I'm not going to choose that as a theme or a point because it's always happening, but it's always a background or a backlying issue that's always there in the background. The negotiation period will begin during these years, and the migration to Habasha. I'm going to try and get through both of them, or at least one of them if possible. So what's the negotiation period? The negotiation period is when Quraysh start to feel that this torture, persecution, oppression, propaganda, rumors, ruining of reputation is not working. We hit harder, they challenge us more. We are actually making martyrs out of them. Like Bilal is now a superstar. People love Bilal bin Rabah because of the fact that he kept on challenging them. Ahadun ahad, and now it's like a meme. Like the word ahadun ahad was what they wrote on the flag, on the banner of Badr. The day of Badr, they went in with banners written on them, ahadun ahad, just to spite Abu Jahl and the people in front of them, right? To remind of what Bilal used to say. It became a popular culture. It was iconic for them, like what Bilal. So the more they tortured people, the more these people were respected. Like Sumayya bint al-Khayyat, this unknown servant lady, little slave, was now celebrated. Was this name of sacrifice and bravery, and Ammar, her son, walked around proud that his parents were the early martyrs. So Quraysh is saying that the more we harm these people, the better they become, like the stronger they become. We're making heroes out of them. So they're like, we don't want to keep on doing this, and it looks bad. It looked bad in Arabia. It was not common for torture to be something acceptable. So they were looking bad by doing this. And Arabs were asking questions, why are you torturing your slaves or your servants or your mawali or people from your families? It is not looking, why is Mus'ab being held hostage? Why is he kicked out of his house? It's not looking good. So they start to think, okay, we can't seem to get this done this way. Let's see if we maybe can negotiate. Let's come up with something, maybe something to. So they would start negotiations with Abu Talib. And they would start making these absolutely ridiculous offers to Abu Talib. They would tell him, all right, how about, you see this kid over here? They would bring in like a 30-year-old good-looking man. His name is Amara ibn al-Walid. And in some narrations, it's Walid ibn al-Walid. Like, see, how about you take him? He'll become your nephew, and you give us Muhammad instead. All right, we'll make a swap. So Abu Talib is looking at them as like, آخذ ابنكم فأربيه وأغذيه وتأخذون ابني فتقتلونه. I take your son and I feed him and nurture him and take care of him, and I give you my son to kill. I don't understand how is this a smart, but they were bankrupt. When you listen to this part of the seerah, you start wondering who has the upper hand here. Who has the upper hand? Is it Quraysh or is it Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam? Well, yes, Quraysh outnumbered him. Yes, they had more status, more wealth, they had more weapons, but they were bankrupt from the idea perspective. Intellectually, they were bankrupt. They had no idea. Like they didn't have a philosophy. They were weak from that perspective. Intellectually, mentally, they were weak. He was strong. He had the idea that he believed in more than he believed in anything else. He had the idea that he was willing to die for. And the people around him also carried this cause. They were willing to die for it. So, and that would make you strong. What makes you strong in life is not your muscles or the numbers that surround you or the status that you have. What makes you strong is the depth of belief that you have within your cause. What you're willing to give up. The fact that you're willing to live and die for it. That's what makes you strong. And Quraysh didn't have an idea that they were willing to die for. Quraysh just wanted the status quo to stay. They had the money, they had the connection, they had the status, all that, but they didn't have the idea. His idea was powerful, alayhi salatu wasalam. When you have a powerful idea, you just hold on to it. You stand your ground. It will prevail eventually. It will prevail eventually. They were bankrupt. That's why they are negotiating. He's not negotiating with them. You're going to see in this negotiation period that they're going to make compromises, hoping that he's going to shoot them all down one by one. They're going to come and offer him things. Say no to all of it. Why? Because he doesn't need to. He's very comfortable with who he is. He's comfortable with his cause. He has no interest. He has no gain there's no secondary gain he's looking for. It's not like I want to get ahead. I want money. I want this. So I'm going to make it difficult for them. They'll come and negotiate with me. We'll compromise. I'll get ahead. No. Here's the way of life. Here's Jibreel when he's teaching his Quran. I have nothing. I don't want anything from you. There's nothing that you have that I want from you. So it was they found it very difficult. So Abu Talib, asking him questions about the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, asking him to kuffa anna ibn akhik, and have him leave, trying to put pressure upon him, and they'll succeed later. Like I'll talk about when Abu Talib finally feels the pressure, but they start their negotiations with Abu Talib, trying to get Abu Talib maybe to give up or to get the Prophet to control the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and he stands his ground and he shows the Prophet alayhi salam, a lot of support for those 6 years within Mecca. And the very famous story, and I don't I only told what did I put here? Yeah, so I only put what did I put? Yes, only a few stories. I didn't tell all the stories. So I'll tell this story, and the rest of them you'll read because I have. So I didn't put that story. It's too long. So here's the story of Utbah Rabi'a. Utbah Rabi'a is one of the eldest noblemen of Mecca. He's an old man, like very old in his 90s. He's the eldest of them all. And all the nobles of Quraysh gathered and said, okay, let's see what he wants. He must want something. Like causing all this havoc and fitna. He must want something. What does he want? Find out what his price is. Those people, everyone has a price. See what it is. What is it that he's looking for? Offer it to him. Let's get rid of this. He'll join us, and we don't have to deal with this anymore. So Utbah puts together his thing. And he goes to the Prophet ﷺ, and he starts making some offerings to him. And they're absolutely ridiculous. But the Prophet ﷺ, and it's an important story to learn because he sits down and he listens to him. He listens to him till the end. Like he lets Utbah, say all this nonsense, and he listens to all of it. And he starts telling him, Ya Muhammad, in kunta turidu malan, jama'na laka min amwalina hatta sirta aghnana. If it's money that you want, we will gather from our own wealth money that will make you the richest amongst all of us. We'll give up each and every one of us a portion of our wealth, but the sum of what we give up will make you the richest amongst everyone. Like you won't, none of us will be at the same level. You'll be the richest. If you want that money, if it's sovereignty you want to be a king, we'll make you king. If it's a king, we'll make you a king. And I always wondered, why didn't they take that one? Like if he just took the king piece, he could have fixed this whole problem. Plus he's king. His first order of the day is executing all of these guys, and then the second order of the day is mandatory to become Muslim, and then khalas, we're done. Yeah. The ends never justify the means. And this is like, if you had to choose one phrase to describe the life of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, then that would be it. The ends never justify the means, ever. The end is noble. The means have to be just as noble, equally noble. You have a beautiful goal. The way that you get there has to be just as beautiful. If there's any corruption in your goal, then you did not understand his life, alayhi salatu wasalam. Never are you allowed to corrupt your method just because with your excuse that, well, the goal was good, or the outcome was beautiful, so I was corrupt on the way there. No. Then you didn't learn him, and you don't know the Quran, and you don't understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. So be very careful. So of course he's going to say no, because that's not the right way to do this. And if you offer him, if it's women, how many do you want? Who are they? We will marry all of the women to you. What do you want? Are you sick? We'll bring you a jinn inside of you. What's wrong? We'll bring you a sa'ah. So they start offering these. He's listening to Ali. All right, okay. What else? If it's su'dud, we'll make you the chief. We'll remove Walid. We'll make you the chief of chiefs amongst us. Just tell us what you want. So he listens, and then when Utbah's done, he asks him, "Afaragta ya Abul Walid? Are you finished? Is there anything else you want to offer?" فقال أتسمع مني? Can I respond? فقال نعم. So he starts, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Hamim, Tanzilum min ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Kitabun fussilat ayatuhu Qur'anan Arabiyyan liqawmin ya'lamun, Bashiran wa nadhira, fa'a'rada aktharuhum fahum la yasma'un, wa qalu qulubuna fi akinnatin mimma tad'una ilayh, wa fi آذاننا وقر ومن بيننا وبينك حجاب فاعمل إننا عاملون قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم. And he would want to recite all 13 verses of the beginning of Surah Fussilat. The verse that he comes to, قال فإن أعرضوا فقل أنذرتكم صاعقة مثل صاعقة عاد وثمود. And when he said that, Utbah got so emotionally disturbed by what he had listened to. قال he jumped. قال فوضع يده على وجه رسول الله. So he jumped up and he put his hand at the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. يقول ناشدتك الله والرحم ناشدتك الله والرحم. I ask you by Allah and by the relationship of kin that we have, that you're my relative, because they're all related. I ask you by Allah and by the relations of kin, no more, don't say anymore. قال فانتبه إلى نفسه. And then he noticed how ridiculous he looked with his hand on the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام's mouth. He's begging him to stop saying. قال فجلس فقال أتمم يا محمد, forgive me, continue. فأتم عليه الصلاة والسلام recitation. إذ جاءتهم رسل من بين أيديهم ومن خلفهم, until he came to the sajda. And so the first there's a sajda. فقام عليه الصلاة والسلام, he did the sajda. Utbah ran. He left. So he comes back, they see him coming back. فقالوا لقد عاد أبو الوليد بغير الوجه الذي ذهب به. Abu Walid just came back with a different face from the one he left us with. Like he went with one face, he's coming back with another one. He looks like he saw a ghost. So he comes back, Ma عندك. So Utbah was actually very reasonable. He explained to them something very clear, and he said, what do you want from him exactly? What's your problem with him? What is it that you're scared of? If he succeeds, then his success is your success. You're all related to him. He's Quraysh, you're Quraysh. So if he becomes what he's going to become, because Utbah is like, this guy's going to make it. You can't stop this, whatever this is. he's still not, but he's like, this is unstoppable. So I don't know, he's going to go places. So if he goes there, then you're Quraysh, which is actually what happened. Like when the Prophet ﷺ became, all of Quraysh became, until this day, if you come from Quraysh, you're amongst the, you have that status. وَإِن قَتَلُوهُ كَانَ مَا تُرِيدُونَ. If he goes and he takes it to people and they kill him, then خلاص, you don't have to worry about this anymore. So he's very reasonable about it. فقال خرف أبو الوليد. أبو الوليد أنت مخرف, meaning you're demented, you're old, you have dementia, you go home and have milk and sleep. They dismissed him. But the Prophet ﷺ, was starting to get these offers. Then they came to him with a question. They said, well, who's better? Are you or your grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, better? Because Abdul Muttalib was known to be a polytheist. At least that was the common belief about him. Whether he was or not, that's an issue of difference of opinion among scholars. But that was what that was the reputation attached to him. So they would say, well, if Abdul Muttalib is better than you, and Abdul Muttalib was an undisputed figure in Arabia, and it's his grandfather. So if he's better than you, then whatever he did should be enough for you. Like if he was a polytheist, then you should be a polytheist. And if you're better than Abdul Muttalib, then please, by all means, tell us. We would like to know that you claim to be better than Abdul Muttalib, right? So there's a lose-lose situation. He can't answer alayhi salatu wasalam. What is he going to say? He can't say he's better than me. He can't. He didn't say a word. He never answered. And they killed themselves trying to get an answer out of him. He never answered alayhi salatu wasalam. And it teaches something. Sometimes the best response is just to plead the fifth, because there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say. And at this example, there's nothing to say because the question is ill-intended, and it's not fair. They offered him alternate worship years. They again said, all right, fine. You win. You a year, us a year. All right? We'll divide the years. You get the first year, Muhammad. You get the first year. You get the first year of Tawheed. You remove all the Islam. Everyone prays, whatever you do, we'll do that, the Quran, all that. And then the year after that, after Hajj, it's our turn. We bring them back again. And the year after that, after Hajj, each year, Hajj we switch. Every year we switch. And they thought that was going to work. And they actually, he said, okay, we'll follow you. You'll become, for that year, you are the undisputed leader, you're the prophet, everything. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم. Go back and listen to the tafsir of Surah Al-Kafirun. I go through some depth and detail. You'll find it quite interesting when you do. So the answer is very clear. And then they decided, all right, fine. They actually gave up. At one point, they were so tired. This was like towards year 6. They gave up. They said, all right, we will listen to you. And I wanted to show you well, let's go through this one first. So this is another story that I'll quickly tell this. So some of the ashraf, some of the nobles got gathered around the Kaaba. Among them Abu Jahl and Uqba and Abdullah ibn Abi Umayyah, who was the Prophet ﷺ's cousin. Abdullah ibn Abi Umayyah is one of his direct cousins or second cousins. فقالوا لرسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام. They started saying, yeah, they talked to him, they gather on behalf of Quraysh, and they start talking to him. إن كنت صادقا ففجر لنا من هذه الأرض ينبوعا واسقط السماء كما زعمت علينا كسفا أو ائتنا بالله والملائكة قبيلا. They start asking him, like, you want us to accept your deen? Give us something. You haven't brought anything to us yet. Musa had a staff. Isa, he made clay birds and they flew, and he walked on water, and he did see this stuff. Salih he brought out a she camel from a boulder in the mountain. Everyone did something. Give us something. Have the earth, bring water out of the earth. We're living in the desert. We're always thirsty. Can you not ask your Lord to bring water out of the earth for us so that we can drink? Can you at least maybe show us a meteor shower from the sky upon us? Can you maybe have the malaika come and speak to us or something? They start asking for things like this. And Abdullah ibn Abi Umayyah would tell the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, لا أؤمن بك حتى ترقى في السماء ثم تنزل علينا كتابا منه نقرأه وفيه إلى عبد الله بن أبي أمية من رب العالمين. You have to go, I need to see a ladder. A cosmic ladder. You have to go up that ladder to the sky, and then they give you a book. I want to see Jibreel give you a book. And that book, you're going to bring it back for us to read, and in it has to say, from Allah to me, Abdullah ibn Abi Umayyah. Like, it has to be directed, addressing me specifically. So if you go to Surah Al-Isra, وَقَالُوا لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ حَتَّى تَفْجُرَ لَنَا مِنَ الْأَرْضِ يَنبُوعًا. Right? أو تكون لك جنة من نخيل وعنب فتفجر الأنهار خلالها تفجيرا أو تسقط السماء كما زعمت علينا كسفا أو تأتي بالله والملائكة قبيلا أو يكون لك بيت من زخرف أو ترقى في السماء ولن نؤمن لرقيك حتى تنزل علينا كتابا نقرأه قل سبحان ربي هل كنت إلا بشرا رسولا. Subhanallah, saying Subhana Rabbi, exalted is my Lord. What am I aside from a human being who is a messenger? I don't have the ability to do all these things. In another narration, ما بهذا بعثت. This is not what He sent me with. Subhanahu wa taala. He didn't send me with these extraordinary phenomena as He sent other prophets. He was sent alayhi salam with the Quran. It's important. I'm going to talk about this later, inshallah, in the next, before the end of this, talk about that miracle piece, inshallah, in some degree. I did talk about it in the first part, but I may talk about it again in case you didn't attend it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses in Surah Al-Isra as a response to what they had asked Him. They're like, oh, give us a miracle. Or maybe let's do something quickly here. So they asked Him basically for a physical miracle, right? That's what they're asking for. Give us something. We want to see water gushing from the ground. Or bring gold, bring wealth to this earth, to this city that you live in, or show us a sign of some sort. Like you want you to see something. It sounds like it's a reasonable request. Musa had something, Isa had something. Where's yours? How do we know you're truthful? Right? It kind of sounds like something you should turn to God and say, yeah, where's my superpower? What can I do that can make people to listen to me? But no, the Prophet ﷺ never did, because he knew ﷺ from the beginning that this was not going to be his story. That وما منعنا أن نرسل بالآيات إلا أن كذب بها الأولون وآتينا ثمود الناقة مبصرة فظلموا بها وما نرسل بالآيات إلا تخويفا. And the reason that we're not sending any more physical signs is because all of the previous nations disbelieved in all of them. Like it didn't help them, right? And we gave Thamud a she camel that walked out of a boulder in a mountain that was as big as a hut, as big as a house, and she gave birth to another camel that was as big as a house, and still it didn't do anything. They all kafaru afterwards. And we only send ayat to bring reverence in the hearts of those who are receiving them. It didn't work. So you're not going to have that, Ya Muhammad, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're going to have the Quran. You're going to have Iqra bismi rabbik. You're going to have this way. So the miracle in our deen, just to understand, is not, He didn't bring anything alayhi sallam physical. He brought a way of life that if you follow, you become the miracle. It'll be you. You're going to be the miracle that occurs. The quality of your life, the way that you carry yourself, the impact that you have on this earth, that is what's going to be miraculous. Not that one moment, shiny thing that happens that people say, oh, and they're dazzled for a second and they forget about it later on. But an ongoing piece of art that is so philosophically deep that you can continue to read until the day of judgment and ongoingly take wisdom out of it and solutions to problems in a way of life that is that is unparalleled in its principleness and in its principle and its value. And that's what he was given, alayhi salatu. And it's absolutely fascinating that Islam made it this. Islam made it far, right, and the farther than any other faith did in the way that it actually functioned, because all the other faiths, they spread via some political tyrant forcing it, right? Like the Christianity, that's how kind of how it became so popular. It was more of a Roman Empire thing, right? And of course, it's not even remotely Tawheed anymore. They celebrate his birth in December, which is not even the right time. The whole thing is messed up. Like it's not even it's paganism, wrapped up in Christianity and Judaism never cared for that to begin with. So Islam spread because the idea was so powerful and the messaging was so powerful, and that's what made the difference, right? So it's something worth thinking about. So this is where they demanded a compromise. I'm going to end with this. I'm coming towards the end. So this is where they actually offer. They came and tell him they give up. For years they negotiate, and I only chose like certain examples of negotiations. They negotiated a lot more. They offered a lot of things back and forth. They kept on going back and forth for a while with him, with a lot of trying to figure out a middle ground. But their final negotiation piece was that they offered themselves as Muslims. They said, fine, we will follow you. No conditions, no alternating years, none of that. We'll follow you. All we ask, Ya Muhammad, لو طردت هؤلاء عنك لجالسناك وسمعنا منك. We just need you to remove these slaves who are sitting with you. It's no status. We can't be seen sitting with these people. So we just need to remove them so that we're not stuck sitting with them. Because he was sitting with Ibn Mas'ud and Suhaib and Bilal and Ammar, Ibn Yasir, all these very simple people who came from simple backgrounds. And I always thought, why didn't just make 2 sessions? Sessions for, a session for the nobles, just to kind of divide your time between them, right? You don't have to kick out these guys. Just say, you guys, when you come, you'll be like, I'll give you the full space only for you. Sit on a chair, both like ahwi, and make you nice and happy. All the slaves will be somewhere else. They'll come the next day or something. They won't come that day, but they're still with us. The ayah of the Quran, وَلَا تَطْرُدِ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُم بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. Don't kick them out. Yeah. ما عليك من حسابهم من شيء وما من حسابك عليهم من شيء فتطردهم فتكون من الظالمين. Don't kick them out. You accept Islam as it is. You come to it as you are, but you accept it as it is. And that's an important piece. You come to Islam with whatever baggage you carry, whatever luggage you have, emotional, cultural, personal. You come with your problems. You come as you are, but you come to Islam as Islam is, not as you want it to be, not how you would like it to be, how it is. And the Prophet ﷺ could have, with just a small adjustment in his scheduling of durus, fixed the problem. Nope. You're going to accept Islam. You're going to come and sit like everyone else. And all of these people that you're looking at are going to be equal to you. Take it or leave it. Who has the upper hand here? Like who has the flexibility to negotiate? It doesn't seem like he's in any trouble. You'd think from listening to these stories that he is like sitting back, sipping his tea, like, yeah, no, I pass on your offer. And they're the ones who are in need. They're the ones who have all the wealth and have all the strength. He doesn't, alayhi salatu wasalam, but he did. That's the point of the story, is that he did. And you just don't know it. We're just not, we're just so materialistic that we don't know. No, he did have the upper hand. And yes, he was being persecuted. And yes, they were being mistreated. Yes, he's going to have to send a third of his followers to Abyssinia, but he still had the upper hand because he had the truth. And that's what's powerful in this world. You may not see the power of it immediately, but you will. You have to just stand your ground a bit. So he did that. He never didn't give up. And I find that to be quite fascinating as a concept. We're going to end this session tonight with just as I said, every once in a while, every few sessions, I'll talk to you about a book, an important book. I want you to, at the end of this course, to know the names of the important books of Sirah. I've taught you the main 4, Sirah ibn Ishaq, Sirah ibn Hisham, Tarikh al-Tabari. You have to know these books. You have to know these books. So know the main 4 books, know them well, and then know دلائل النبوة البيهقي, know دلائل النبوة Ibn Nu'aym al-Asbahani, and then know طبقات Ibn Sa'd as well. So know these books, just know what they are, so that you have an idea of what of what these encyclopedias are like. And he called الطبقات الكبرى one of the great classes. And what he did, Ibn Sa'd, he's an early scholar. So he's one of the so one of the four books is Sirat al-Waqidi, right? So al-Waqidi is an early scholar of Sirah. His student is Ibn Sa'd. Ibn Sa'd is a student of al-Waqidi. And it's important because al-Waqidi had a lot of stories in his Sirah that are problematic, like are not, you cannot authenticate, you can't validate, and there's mistakes in them. But it's an important collection because it's an early collection, and we know that there's a lot, and he held on to pieces of information that we need for sure. Like no one else would have had done it aside from him. So Ibn Sa'd came after him, and he cleansed out that book a bit. And he made something different. So he did us a big favor, rahmatullah alayhi, in his work. So he was one of the leading early historians of Islam, a major student of al-Waqidi. And he was called the scribe of Katib al-Waqidi during a certain period when he was younger in his life. He lived in Baghdad, and he's a known hadith scholar as well. So Ibn Sa'd is not just a Sirah scholar, he's a hadith scholar, and that's an important piece. Like Imam al-Bayhaqi, for example, Abu Nu'aym, they were Sirah scholars, but also hadith scholars, and you need a scholar to be both, or else they're going to give you narrations that are that have no basis. So Ibn Sa'd had that, and his teachers were not just Imam al-Waqidi. He was also a student of Sufyan ibn Uyayna, the great muhaddith, and Fudayl ibn Iyad, radiallahu anhu, one of the great muhaddithin as well. So he checked all the boxes, Ibn Sa'd radiallahu anhu, in terms of the scholars that he learned from and the Islamic disciplines that he had mastered, and also his reputation as a scholar himself. So what did he do in his book? He made a monumental biographical encyclopedia of early Islam, arranged in classes and layers of people. So the book is usually, you find it in 6 to 8 volumes, depending. Volume 1 and 2 is the life of the Prophet ﷺ, talks about him, his lineage, his birth, his battles, his miracles, family, death, all that. Volumes 3 and 4 are the Sahaba. And then volumes 5 and 8 are the Tabi'un and the later scholars and judges. So it's actually it goes only as far as his life went. So it was you're talking about just the early first few generations of Islam, but it's a very, very valuable book because it has stories about these. It's an early book that was written, and he puts together all of the stories that he has from those first 300 years of Islam. So it's an extremely, extremely important book. It's not just important for Sirah. Like it's seen as a book that's more of a historical document that's very important, but we obviously benefit from it within Sirah quite a bit. Thousands of names and stories are narrated in this book. One of our in university, one of our courses was to read one of the volumes. I ended up reading the whole book eventually, but reading a volume of that book was absolutely insane. It was very, very interesting. And Arabic is very heavy, but at the same time, you're getting a story. You're learning something that you wouldn't learn almost anywhere else. He's a hadith transmitter, but most of the stories he puts in his book in Tabaqatihi are historical narrations, not hadith. Juridical. Remember, I told you the difference between a hadith narration and a historical narration. So Ibn Sa'd was a muhaddith, so he knew how the chains of narrations for hadith work, but he didn't use that within his encyclopedia because he saw it as a historical book. But the fact that he understood that made his book a little bit more reliable because he would never put something that was absolutely beyond the boundaries of what is reasonable. So he would point out, like he would tell the story sometimes, and would point out if it's da'if or if there's something problematic within within his collection. All right. So that's the Tabaqat Ibn Sa'd. I have another 1 or 2 slides to read about it, learn about it. We'll end with that, inshallah. Next week, we'll start with the migration of Abyssinia. Subhanallah, bihamdik, la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. There is I did put in the chat in the classroom. There's a question. I would ask everyone to, again, answering these questions or participating in the forums is a part of the mark. So if you're in the classroom, just participate. And I made a request. Put in your answer to the best of your ability, and I'll go forward to your mark, inshallah ta'ala. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. See you next week, inshallah.